He was waiting for the signal from us.
That's it.
All right, there we go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome on a cold day. And let's start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll get into our meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I don't know, you threw it on the ground.
So first of all, everyone, welcome. Thanks for coming out. The day where we've got snow piled everywhere and it's quite cold. I'm going to start off with a special thanks to Mike Favero, because my truck decided to just stop right at the corner of Bear Hill and 108. And Mike saved the day, dragged the truck out of the way and gave me a lift over here so I didn't have to hitchhike my way over to town hall. So thanks, Mike, that was great. We have had a couple things that are going to come up. They're related to weather. I'll get to them in a minute. But first, let's do the introduction to who's here. We've got the selectmen to my right, Bob Marchand, Chairman, Joe Simone, Vice Chairman, Mike Connolly, and Dan Guy. And Mike's on the end, Dan's next to him. They're seated in a different order than they listed themselves. Paula Mahoney, our town administrator, is going to be helping out, along with Robin Sparks, who also will be assisting us during the course of the meeting. Mary Jo Batola, town clerk. Tony Suslowitz, our deputy town clerk. And I'm going to make a request right here, brought to me from what we've seen in the past. Sometimes, as we'll get into, we make amendments. And sometimes the amendments get kind of complicated. And clerk and myself have to know those amendments exactly. So we have brought with us a lovely pad of paper. And if someone has an amendment that's more than a word or two, or that sounds like it's got 3 parts to a sentence and we might get it wrong, we're going to ask, let's use the paper just so we can write it down. So that also may make it easier if we do need to draft a quick amendment or something, so you can actually have some paper to write it down. And it's a nice piece of paper, too. Yeah, it's very great paper. So, we also have with us today, of course, the supervisors of the checklist, Susan Peterson, Marcy Vincent, and Ellen McCullough, who I hope everyone checked in who's a voter. Is everyone checked in? So they're ready to vote if that time comes up. For people who are not residents, you can't vote, obviously. And if you want to speak, then it's up to the voters whether or not they want to hear what you have to say. I don't think that case will come up. If it does, somebody can just raise that issue. And our traditional practice here is we usually like to hear from people who have something useful to say, even if they're non-residents. And then finally, I want to thank the Cable Committee, Marilyn Landry, the chair, Pat Masterson, Sally Woodman, Chris Kuzmitsky, Diane Morin, and James Saucier, our station manager, who are broadcasting this to the community and putting it up on YouTube so we can try to look to see if we ever get into those record, million view kind of videos on YouTube. So I have a few things to talk about. First off, I always try to say, how many times we've done this. Our town has been here 277 years, longer than our nation. We split off from Southampton in 1749. They squabbled about it for a few years. They had some town meetings where people complained, including one where they actually requested that the British colonial governor overturn the results of that town meeting based on all the same kind of things people have complained about continuously. Since then, this is probably our 271st or 2nd town meeting. And that's an important thing. And that's a long process that we are still participating in, and hopefully our children and their children will still be doing the thing in the future, the same thing, where people come together and really embody the whole idea of our nation, that the power rests with the people. So, I have a couple other things. What we are here to do today. We're an SB2 town. Most of the people in the room have heard this from me like 10 times, but for people who are not familiar with it, or people who are watching us on video, SB2 was a bill passed a long time ago that split, Senate Bill 2 is where it comes from. It makes a 2-part process. The first part is our deliberative session today, when we discuss and potentially amend the articles on the warrant. And then the final vote, the yes or no on those items, is done at the town election on March 10th. So our job today is to discuss the articles, to share information about them, to learn about them, and then to make, if necessary, amendments to them. There are some statutory requirements around that based on state law. In particular, we cannot and will not amend the zoning articles. In other words, they have a slightly different process. We'll discuss them briefly just because it's a good way for people to learn about them, but we cannot amend them at this meeting. In addition, we obviously can't amend the default budget because that's a kind of a statutory constructive value. And there are some restrictions on petitioned articles in that, and I think everyone would agree this is pretty logical, we can't simply amend a petitioned article so it becomes meaningless. Right? Or we can't restructure this text in such a way that it has no actual meaning. But I've never seen a situation where the Newton voters, wanted to do that anyway. So anyway, procedurally there are sometimes a couple more items. We'll find sometimes there's a wording mistake or a spelling mistake. We'll fix those pretty quickly, and I usually just put them out and ask for a vote because we don't need to second and have discussion over whether the word is spelled incorrectly, because I think everybody will go, yes, it's incorrect. In addition, since we have a pretty good crowd today, and we have a small legal fire capacity in the town hall, we're close to it. I am going to remind everyone that there's one fire exit right there. There's another one there, but that has stairs, so if you have a problem with stairs, head for that door. And the people in the back room who can hear me, I wouldn't head that way, but they can get out the back way. There's another exit out the back. We may be in a situation if we have a few more people where our members of our fire company and our fire chief have an additional duty. Namely, they would then be in the fire watch. And needless to say, I don't think we have much of a concern because given the chief sitting right there, if somebody starts smoking or something happens, we'll know. The other item which came up, which is in sort of that same category, is that it snowed last weekend. And not that it doesn't snow frequently in New Hampshire, but it snowed quite a bit. And that caused the Department of Revenue Administration of the state to be closed for the day on Monday. And that delayed the processing of warrants and budgets and other things that are kind of required and needed for these meetings by one day. And unfortunately, there's a state statute regarding the posting time of notices for meetings like this. So since everything shifted over by a day, that kind of shifted that, one day past that. And so everybody at the state level is now trying to figure out how to back themselves out of that kind of blunder by the DRA. And I'm not blaming them for, not being open because of a lot of snow, but it's kind of a problem. So we are there will likely be an additional meeting, an additional kind of mini deliberative session, because we are allowed to call a special meeting for the sole purpose of correcting a minor administrative error. And I would suggest that having a snow day when they shouldn't have is a minor administrative error, since we didn't even do it. And that we may have to have a mini meeting, which will probably consist of the supervisor of the checklist, myself, these gentlemen, and I guess our town clerk, and anyone who wants to watch us stand there for 5 minutes and do absolutely nothing. So that's kind of an unusual circumstance we're in that it used to be that the generation of warrants did not really involve the DRA. We did it here in its entirety. But the law changed, and now they're in that process. And so we're now kind of dealing with that. But it does not affect our actions today, and it will not affect anything of the voting process or anything else. It's just kind of an issue that will go back and forth between us and the state. So the second session of this meeting happens on Tuesday, March 10th at the fire station. It will be a nice day weather-wise, I've already asked, so we're hoping that will be the case. And just as a quick mention here, the school district deliberative session is on Wednesday. The Wednesday coming up, February 4th, 7 p.m. at the high school. And that's also something that I would encourage everyone to participate in. So let's get to the warrant, which is the main order of business here today. And I did see someone come in recently, just at the end of the meeting. If you're a voter, you should check it. Yeah, check it. Nice. Looks like I suspect there's a young voter here as well. Congratulations. Future voter. So while they're checking in, I will just begin the articles of the warrant. And I'm going to note that the warrant that got handed out by the state no longer has the kind of wording at the front end which informs people that this is the warrant that we are going to be considering for our ballot. The first article, of course, election of officers, will be done on the ordinary ballot that we always use. The second article that comes up is a planning or zoning article. I'll read that so everyone knows what we're talking about, and then we'll have a brief discussion on it, but it's not amendable. So Article 2, planning and zoning. Are you in favor of the adoption of amendment number 2 as proposed by the planning board for the town zoning ordinance as follows? To amend the definition of accessory apartment to the state definition of accessory dwelling unit under RSA 674 that went into effect on July 1st, 2025. To further amend the section 13 accessory apartments to reflect changes to state law under RSA 674 that went into effect on July 1st, 2025. Planning board unanimously recommends a yes vote on this. The text of these changes are available at the town hall. You'll note there's a typo there. That's not actually text in the warrant article. That'll get fixed because it's just a typo. And on the town website. So who would like to just speak briefly? Bob, I think you're the person who's the liaison.
Bob Marchand, as sitting ex officio on the planning board. What took place up in the state, and Charlie over there is well aware of it, and he can add some extra information to it, that the state passed some new bills this year, and one of them was the accessory dwelling units. And by law, these two that are proposed here are actually what the state law now states. So that is different than what we have already on our books for as far as the town is concerned. So simply all this pertains to is us changing the wording so that our guidelines are now aligned with the state's new law. And that's all this is. So even if everybody voted no, that doesn't mean anything, because Charlie will tell you that state law will override the town's law. Correct, Charlie?
Correct.
Thank you. So this is just more of just a informational piece, so if anybody in town wants to look up the proper zoning amendments for the accessory dwelling units, they will have the correct verbiage and know what they're doing. And that's what these first two are all about.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, now, so any questions or discussions on Article 2? Yes. And please state your name just so that people who are not here know.
Sandra Estabrook. RSA 674, that's the whole planning board ordinance or rules for the whole planning board, how they affect all the rules. So there's groups. So like, I looked it up, the definition for accessory apartments is sub 71, like colon 71. So you can't amend them, but I think if there was more information in there, like 674, 71 is the definition for dwellings. 67:72 is about accessory dwellings, and then 674:73 is about detached accessory dwellings. If somebody want to read all that on the RSA.
Thank you. Other comments regarding the second article? All right, so let's move on to Article 3. It's another planning and zoning article.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I make a motion to restrict reconsideration of Article
Two?
No need to do so, Mr. Simone, because there's nothing to amend it.
Fine.
So,
Good, sounds good.
Planning and zoning, Article 3, are you in favor of the adoption of amendment number 3 as proposed? And again, we're gonna see it, there's a typo there. We're not gonna amend that, but it'll be fixed. It will say as proposed by the planning board for the town zoning ordinance to amend section 20, commercial zone uses to allow multiple unit dwellings in the commercial zone to reflect changes in state law under RSA 674 that go into effect on July 1st, 2026. Planning board unanimously recommends a yes vote. The complete set of the proposed changes are available at the town hall and on the town website. And I think we've already got an explanation. This is a similar situation where state zoning law supersedes ours, and they make changes, and in some cases, if they make changes that are for topics that are already reflected in our local zoning ordinance, it's wise to amend our ordinance to match their text. Because otherwise, if somebody just read the local one, they wouldn't know if they were supposed to also go up and read a bunch of text, that's in the state rulings, which would override it. So keeping ours consistent with the state is just a generally helpful thing. All right, any discussion on Article 3? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 4. Now, this is another planning and zoning article, and I'm going to mix in a little sort of educational material as I go along. It's a citizen's petition, and there is a recent state law, and it's been a long time convention in our community, that the proponents of a citizen's petition get the phone first. So as soon as I get done reading it, I'm going to look around and say, is there a person who was one of the petitioners who would like to speak to it? No obligation, they don't have to say a thing, but they get the first turn if they are the actual people who put forth the petition, the same way that the board gets the first turn to talk about things from the board. An order of talking. So, the citizen's petition for Article 4 says, are you in favor of the adoption, as proposed by a citizen's petition of 25 or more registered voters, that the town shall permit secondary unpaved driveways to a parcel or serving a continuously owned parcel for agricultural purposes, provided that the secondary driveway meets the stated purpose of this section, including safety and efficiency. The planning board unanimously voted to recommend a yes vote on that. And again, the complete petition is available at the town hall and on the town website. So do we have one of the petitioners who'd like to speak to that? Or?
And that is not correct. It says the planning board unanimously recommends a yes vote. That is false, because I voted no, and I sit on the planning board.
Okay. I don't know if you're are you a voting member?
I certainly am, as the ex officio.
So that's a question, I think that's not really a discussion, we're not gonna amend that, but that sounds like because these are like administrative facts.
Yeah.
I would charter our town administrator and perhaps the planning board, and I'm not debating with you whether that happened.
That'll get corrected.
That sounds like it's just somebody wrote that down. Yeah. Okay, but again, that's not an amendment we're making, that sounds like it needs to be updated. You don't happen to know what the actual vote was? Somebody know what that vote was?
Another planning
Dan
board.
Berard, Newton Planning Board. It was four
Name
in
and
favor.
address, please.
Dan Berard, 18 Mollymine. The vote was 4 in favor, 2 opposed, I believe.
Thank you.
We'll check to make sure.
Okay. So I would simply request that in the preparation of that, let's get the right total. Because it's not the kind of thing we get to amend here, right? That's just like a fact from the planning board. Let's get the right number from the planning board and put it on the ballot. Any other discussion regarding this article? Mr. Pavera.
Good morning, folks. Mike Pavero, Newton Road agent. I'm torn on this warrant article, to be quite honest with you. Do I think it would be nice to have a tool in the toolbox to have a second driveway, agricultural driveway? I want to point out really solid that this isn't for people to start calling if this passes. to start getting a second driveway. I get those calls all the time. It's very black and white, one driveway per lot in the town of Newton. It would be nice, but I don't want to open up Pandora's box for people, even agriculturally, looking for a second driveway. The reason this is being put in front of the voters right now is that the location on this piece of property, an existing driveway, was asked to be relocated. I went, met with them, safety made sense, sight distance was an issue. We moved the driveway. Told him he had to get rid of the first one. Didn't do that. Went back and told him again, you got to get rid of the first one. Didn't do that. That's what this petition's for. His two driveways are 60 feet apart. There's one there, there's one there. This is bending the rules. Throwing in the word agricultural. It's not an agricultural lot. It's not a big farm where we got to have a second driveway 600-700 feet down the road. They're 60 feet apart. I think it would be nice to have the option on occasions where that would warrant a second driveway. I can't think of any in town off the top of my head, but I am not for this warrant article. Strongly not for this warrant article. We can look at it, revisit it later, but I'd prefer this one not pass. It's going to create a lot of headaches, and I'm the person that will still be in charge of giving these driveway permits. They're not going to be given easy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Can I speak?
Of course.
I'm not a resident, but I'll.
Okay, hang on. We're okay with a non-resident speaking? Anybody opposed?
Yep.
Yeah,
He's
go
our
ahead, sir.
building
Go ahead.
inspector.
Yeah, we're fine.
So again, I'm not a resident. Sam Zanini, the building inspector, code enforcement office. Just something to think about for the voters. It really doesn't make any difference to me. However, if you have somebody who has a home business occupancy or runs a business and fails to get a home business occupancy, and they have, for some reason, an accessory structure, whether it's an oversized shed or a garage, and they run like a small contracting business, and they want to access that structure with a second driveway, really the only thing they have to do is to call it agricultural is, I don't know, buy some chickens or plant a few trees and pull apples or whatever. And when there's an issue with our office, they would just say, listen, I'm accessing it for agricultural uses. And you're not going to be able to park out there every day to see. And while I'm here, I'm going to be using my contracting garage on a daily, So that would be that could be a struggle for our office, trying to enforce the agricultural thing. Because it would be it would technically be an easy loophole. And that's it.
Thank you, Sam.
Other comments? Yes, ma'am.
Sandra Estabrook. So when they put that word agriculture in there, is there a certain RSA or a certain section of rules they have to go by, or is it like, how do you get the meaning of that, what agricultural means from somewhere?
I think our building inspector is the best person to answer that
Have
question.
our building inspector address that.
I think, so in New Hampshire, agricultural is protected a lot, the definition of agricultural, and it really doesn't take a lot to meet the definition. So it's a very broad-based, sort of liberal interpretation, and a lot of things fit into agricultural.
And that's the problem with this warrant article. The use of the word agricultural puts a vague blanket on top of it, which would allow quite a few different openings, instead of it being specific.
Any other discussion or comments regarding this article? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to Article 5, the operating budget. Shall the town of Newton raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant, or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $5,296,957. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $4,963,101, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by the previous action of the town of Newton or by law, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, sections 10 and 16, to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. And there is a notation here that a majority vote is required, which is, of course, the same with all of these other than bond issues. The estimated tax impact is listed as, this is for the entire budget, $2.96 per thousand. The estimated tax impact of the default budget is $2.64 per thousand, recommended by the Board of Selectmen 4-0. And who would like to speak to that first? if any?
Oh, is that me?
Well, you got the opportunity.
No, I know, I was looking at my other selection. So if you've watched meetings, we've been through this budget a lot. I feel like this budget is the most responsible budget we could put forward as a selectman, working closely with all the department heads, working closely with the town administrator. I feel like it's tough to talk, well, talking about the operating budget, I'm going to talk about another warrant article. So the selectmen decided in conjunction with the fire chief that we were going to separate out the pay for the 24/7 of the fire department. And the reason why we did that is because, and again, this is talking about another warrant article, but it has to do with the operating budget, is because last year, the year before, the town voted and accepted and wanted 24/7 fire EMS. The next year, the selectmen tried to fund it through the budget, and we got a default budget, so it didn't go. We overspent the budget last year, by, what's the amount, Paula? I know, I put you on the spot and didn't tell you, but,
Give me 1 second.
yeah.
My number went to a percentage by mistake. 122, it was actually, 122.
122,000, roughly. I'm just throwing that number out there because we're not positive. But anyway, we are, but we just don't have it right in front of us. It was overspent by that much. Now, we were able to offset that number by a warrant article that we had done 2 years ago? 2 years ago? To help fund the 24/7 fire department. But that was a one-time warrant article to set up an account to allow the money that was collected through transportations and the ambulance service to be deposited in there to help pay for some of the things that they're going to need, whether it's resupplying the ambulance and stuff like that. The town can't do it again. If we put it in the budget again and it went to default again, we could not run 24/7 fire. There's no money. We don't, huh? The funds are not there. There's no place for the board to take it from to fund it. So that's why the budget is what it is, and that's why there's a separate warrant article strictly for 24/7 fire and EMS. Because the town can't fund it again if we get another default budget.
Do you want me to say what we would be over if?
Yeah, sure.
If we didn't have that other account, we would have been over budget by 302,000 this year with the 24/7.
Right. So that's what the selectmen decided to do this year. The transparency of it, of what the actual cost is, now that we've done it a year, we know. The fire chief knows. We have a good handle on it. So that's where that is. The default budget was done by RSA some people said that we had set numbers too high or whatever. We weren't done with the default budget. We still had another meeting to talk about the default budget, and it was adjusted then. Everything's done by RSA in the default budget. There's nobody's raises that are in the default budget. None of that happened.
Full transparency.
And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
All right.
So, let's open up the discussion, comments, questions regarding the budget. Yes, sir.
Name and address, please.
Dr. James Summers, 41 Heath Street. I'm also a state representative for the town of Newton. My comments actually mainly just to make the town aware between default budget and the proposed operating budget. So looking at RSA 4013-9B, the default budget is essentially last year's budget with adjustments for contracts and other obligations. While looking at the operating budget and the default budget, some of you may have noticed that the salaries are almost identical in both. They are both just showing in the default budget the same amount that's in the proposed budget. Now, the default budget, a select board cannot simply sign a new contract with massive raises and then claim it as previously incurred obligation to the paid default budget. For a salary increase to legally stay in the default budget, it must typically stem from a contract where the cost items were already disclosed to the approved by the voters. Looking at the executive section, for example, if the selectmen put a $200,000 salary in the proposed operating budget and the voters rejected it, the town reverts the default budget. If the previous year's salary was $100,000, the default budget should, by law, remain at $100,000, not $200,000. Plus any legally mandated increases like retirement or health insurance. The selectmen cannot legally set the default budget to match their new $200,000 proposal just because they want it to match. The default budget is a mathematical formula set by statute, not a choice made by the board. A board might try to give the $200,000 salary with the current year by moving money from other departments, using their authority under RSA 3210. While they can move the money this year, they cannot force that higher amount into next year's default budget. If the voters reject the budget next year, the default will look back at what is appropriated, not what the selectmen decided to pay mid-year. There's multiple, actually under this, there's actually multiple Supreme Court cases we can look at here from New Hampshire Supreme Court. You got the Sanborn rule. You also have the this is not to do with unionized positions such as collective bargaining. That falls under RSA 273-A. So this would not be affected the fire department, the police department, the Department of Public Works, anything of that. This is just for administrative and executive of the town. So the with the 1 year rule, sorry, I skipped the Supreme Court case here. The New Hampshire Supreme Court, most notably Neil Kirk and Thomas Cloud, 2019, has clarified that contracts previously incurred usually refers to those already ratified by voters. Now, if this was the case where the default budget could equal the proposed budget, what's to stop anybody from, okay, we're going to give our town administrator $1 million. Let's give him 10 times what the governor of New Hampshire makes rather than 5 times. If they agree to it, a contract for $1 million salary, and they put it in the default budget, and then they propose that same amount in the new proposed budget, there's nothing to stop. We can't do it, because if we wanted to vote no on the proposed budget, we'd be stuck with the default budget, which would have that same $1 million in it. So that's my points on that. Thank you.
James, before you go, what budget are you looking at? Because
Operating budget and the
No. What version of the budget? Because what you're saying is not accurate. Not the law. The case law is right. I agree with that. But our budget numbers do not reflect that. They might have been a draft that came out, but if you're not looking at the last one that was submitted to...
sheet that came out on January 15th.
If you noticed that last meeting, Mr. Summers, we went through each one and we backed out
We
those
adjusted.
figures.
They were adjusted.
And readjusted the default budget.
Okay, so it's going to be a lot less than what it was proposed on the Excel spreadsheet then? It was,
The first
It's
one
what's in the
that
warrant.
What's in the warrant?
okay.
But there's no, all that stuff was back
back
down.
down.
It was just from us moving column to column before we had gone through our
And
adjustments.
it's in the minutes of the meeting for
That's,
public
all of that
knowledge.
has been back down.
Okay.
None of that was there, you know what I mean? I know the law. You can't do that. You can't give a raise on the December 30th and then carry it over to the next year in the default. I get that.
Gotcha.
And that's not what happened. It was a draft before the selectmen had a chance to go through it all and final it
I
all.
was curious about the town voting for a $200,000 salary, greater than what the governor of New Hampshire makes for a...
Nope. And that's not just one salary either, just to be clear. So in the regular budget, that line is not one salary.
Okay.
So there's two people that serve for the executive.
In
We have
one of those
Robin
positions
Sposs,
that
who
combine.
sits for the administrative for the selectmen. Then we also have the town administrator. So you're adding salaries that are gonna come out of that line to pay these individuals, plural, not one.
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it says executive salary, it's multiple
It's
people.
combination.
It's not just one person.
Believe you me, nobody's worth that kind of money.
So I get it.
Thanks a lot.
I understand your concern, but that's not, it's a multiple position, multiple people
that makes
are
sense
in that
now,
line. It's not separated out,
So,
okay?
and so the salaries between, and they've been downgraded from all the salary positions for the default budget versus the proposed? There's nothing that matches anymore?
There might be one or two in a certain department for reasons that are past us. Whether it could be the fire chief's contract or the police chief's contract, contracts that were already made. But I can't, like, I don't have it in front of me, I was trying to print it before. I
And then
did.
my second part is, if those are multi-year contracts, then does that fall under the Sanborn rule as well? As if this multi-year, then the town would get to vote on, it would be, only be a 1 year, we'd have
Not
to
when it's a
reapprove it the
fire,
following year?
not with fire and police.
Okay, that's what I thought. just
That's
unionized.
different, yeah,
All right, thank you.
okay?
All right. Continuing, other comments, discussion regarding the budget. Take care. More.
Hi, Diane Moran. Just for clarification, does the proposed budget include funding the ambulance for 24/7?
It does
No,
not.
no.
Okay.
It was
I
separated,
can't
it was
pull it
separated.
out. That's why it's a warrant article.
Ms. Esper.
Sandra Estabrook, New Boston Road. I don't think I said where I live. So, like, in this proposed budget, 4130 says executives at, whatever, $228,000. Is there somewhere, like, written line by line in that budget, like, where that, so how you get up to that total?
No, it's not. Just like it's not in the police department or the fire department or any other department.
It used to be in the town warrant, in the,
It may be in the annual town report when you list everybody's salaries,
show
but
the
it's not
salaries.
part of the budget that we use.
okay.
And even worse, when we submit it to DRA, they take it, what you see when we do our spreadsheet, when we give it to DRA, they take it
They
and go like
changed it,
this.
they amended.
Right.
Some of the stuff doesn't even make sense.
Right. Well, just for clarity, like you said, for,
Well, we
that
do-
people
it-
know where that money goes exactly.
Yeah, it's all in the town report.
It's in the
Everyone's-
town report.
It will
It'll
be.
be who makes what.
Everyone's
We tried to keep
salaries
it-
are there.
If we break it down that much further, now I'm like at 20 pages of a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the point. The spreadsheet that the board posts online and stuff, that's our working document, and we just share it with the board, and we share it with the townspeople, of course. But for us to break down everybody's salary, you're gonna add a
pages, yeah.
lot of pages of stuff that, you know, and we know everybody's salary, and everybody does, because it's in the town report. It is talked
Yeah,
about
it's-
during our meetings.
It's total transparency, Sandra.
But
Like I
yeah.
said, as a resident, you might feel better about some of these numbers if you had a breakdown. Say, oh yeah, well, it all adds up to that, so now I feel better. Because I have all these people working hard for me,
Yeah.
and I appreciate them, and it does add up to whatever this says.
I think over the years, people scrutinize that town report pretty good when it comes to salaries, because I know we get phone calls all the time.
But
Why
then
is
it's
this
too late,
person
because
so?
we've already had this meeting.
But then again, you always have the last year's information to look at,
Yeah,
so
okay, thank you.
it's there.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to mention what I believe to be a correct clarifying item, if I may, and correct me if I'm wrong, is Since we've moved to the DRA being more involved with these budgets and warrants than they used to be, the budget printout we're seeing here that came from the DRA is kind of run through their process, and their account nomenclature and divisions may not be exactly the ones we've always historically had. So, I mean, they're titled as they are, but there's not exactly necessarily a perfect match with what you would have seen in the town report like 5 years ago. And there's what we characterize like a different area, right? Sometimes when you read it, it's like, you know, bigger than, and I would suggest, for instance, I doubt the actual elections budget. If you look at the elections budget, one I just happen to know, it's in a bin called Election Registration and Vital Statistics with a bunch of other stuff. And so that would have been broken out separately or differently, and I'm not sure, and I'm not trying to suggest, I'm just saying look at the budget categories in this, and then I hope they can be figured out relative to the town report. But there's no guarantee that the DRA boundary is exactly the same as the one we're all used to.
Yeah, they have their own rules that they run by.
There are state laws that, of the way we have to report and what accounts and account numbers we have to use. So even in the budgets that we use on our system, the heading is the same as DRA, and then we can have as many accounts under that heading as we need to break specific buckets out. But we have to also remember that it is a bottom line budget. So once the budget is decided, it is up to the board if they need to move monies from, I'm just making something up right now, let's say from elections to executive, or from executive to police, or, you know, things can move around. That doesn't affect the default, that doesn't affect the budget, it's just where you're putting those funds.
And thank you, Paul, that's a very good point. And I guess the main point I was trying to make was that if you look back at a history of town reports, like many of us do, just understand that they don't necessarily align perfectly over time. Right? So you have to kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so any other discussion on the operating budget? Yes, sir.
Roger Hamill. This is very confusing in terms of the estimated tax impact. In previous years, we've always shown the difference between the current estimated town tax and what the proposed budget would be. Someone who looks at this quickly says, you know, my tax bill is going to go up $3 per thousand, and that's not what you're proposing. Is there some way of clarifying that to show that the $2.93 is actually only a 5-cent increase? If you tell people it's a 5-cent increase, you've got a much better chance of it passing than telling them it's going to cost them $2.96.
Do you want to talk, or do you want me to? One of the biggest reasons we couldn't do that this year is because this year was a revaluation year. So the property values are taken into account with figuring out the tax rate. And so last year's property values were a lot lower than this year's property values are. So for us to compare that, it's not an apple to apple. It's a little, it is only like a $1 something increase? I can't remember. But we couldn't really show that because it's not
a true number.
But
breakout.
It is a true number because my December tax bill was based upon the new evaluation. And that shows that the town portion of the new evaluation is $2.91 per thousand.
Well, I mean, I don't have the numbers, she would probably have to run them. We can do that.
I mean, I think the way it is presented here is doing a disservice. I think you really need to make clear that the real impact that people are going to see.
Roger, are you looking for a percentage
No, it's 5 cents. I mean, I look at my tax bill, and it said the town portion, based upon the value, the new value of my house, is $2.91.
Okay, Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
since this is a mathematical thing,
Correct.
would you accept a motion to change it to reflect the increase or decrease without putting a number on it?
Yes, because.
Do you know what I mean? Because just.
Right, let me just give it the logic behind that. Yes, because again, these are like intended to be factual statements from the board, right? They aren't part of the actual text of the vote. That calculation is a mathematical calculation and is intended to be a fact, the same way that the tally of who voted for what on the planning board is a factual matter, not something we're gonna negotiate and discuss as voters, right? There's the form of what's there, I think, is something the voters here might wanna say, hey, I want the percentage, or I want the difference, or I want the absolute value, that's fine. But whatever that number is, we're not gonna decide it by votes, right? We're not gonna say, no, I wanna make that number, different.
And I
But we
think,
can certainly put that back on the town administration, the town board of selectmen, to come up with the correct number.
so the other part of that is, and I don't know because I wasn't here, and I think Ms. Moran might know, is whether the warrant read or not, the town tax impact, if it was estimated tax impact.
Right.
Or estimated tax impact increase. I don't remember, because I wasn't here, and I've looked through these books so many times, my
That's
brain's
last
fried.
year's report.
But that's my question, I guess.
All right, so
Only
I
because
believe
she's like
it
my
was
encyclopedia.
the amount of increase. So this is confusing.
Okay.
Yeah. I would prefer to see it something stating that it, tax impact is 5 cents.
Sure.
This to me means I think it's different.
Okay.
So you maybe keep that in there and then add the line and the difference between 2024 and 2025 impact is 5 cents
Okay.
per thousand. That might be a weighted compromise.
Okay.
So may I make a suggestion to kind of expedite the process, Mr. Hamel? Why don't you just simply stand there for 1 second? I'm going to propose that the body, that's you guys, make a motion to direct the selectmen, to tell the selectmen, to present it in an accurate fashion with the difference.
To show the difference from last year to this year.
Yeah, you want the
You want the-
increase, right? You want the increase.
Numerical difference.
The increase. Well, actually, it looks like the default budget would be a decrease.
It could be,
They
so I'm
look
sorry,
that way,
increase
yeah.
or decrease. Yeah.
The difference.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to show the total number, I'm fine with that. But I do want to see the difference.
Okay, so, staying right there. Do we have a second for that from somebody? Okay, is there any discussion on that? I don't hear any. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Do what they told you.
Thanks.
Simple as that. So that's taken care of next. Next item. Do we have any further items on Article 5, the operating budget? Mr. Sherman.
So looking at the budget that was actually handed out to us, deference, under general government, James Summers, 41 Heath Street, State Representative. I was going to look at line item 4155 under general government. Personal administration, the prior year adopted budget was $509,954. Reductions or increases, it increased $186,602 for a default budget of $696,556. Was this $186,602 part of some increase or contract that was unknown to the public or what it was for?
It was not part of a contract. So what happened was there wasn't somebody in finance for a couple years. things where numbers were just used over and over, but they weren't the actuals. So these are the actual numbers that need to be provided for the benefits of the employees. And they do get included in the default because they are mandatory, we have to pay them. They aren't with new raises or anything like that. It's what the numbers really should have been over the past few years.
So when did the town actually approve this increase?
They don't. It was a miscalculation in the past.
So basically, the default budget could be, if there's a miscalculation somewhere in the past, it can be added to the default budget at any point without the public having any knowing of it until they have to abide by it or else?
I believe for certain sections, including personnel, because personnel is all the benefits. It's the retirement, we're state mandated to pay a certain percentage for police, fire, and employee retirement funds.
Police and fire, I understand, because that's under a collective bargaining agreement, but...
No, we don't have bargaining agreements in Newton.
Right, so because it's not under a unionized contract, where is the contract or RSA article that says that this has to be added without default?
It's a state mandate. We have to pay, the town has to pay, I believe it's 13-point-something% for regular employees, and is it 17? I can't think off the top of my head
Wait a
for,
second.
you know.
No. Wait a second. Going down the wrong rabbit hole. That increase right there, part of that is from insurance. Workers' comp. I don't control that.
Nope.
The board doesn't control that. That's
What
all.
line is he talking about?
He's talking about
Personnel.
personal administration, 4155. I don't see another line there that says workers' comp.
That's under insurance. That's 4196. These are benefits, so it's FICA, Social Security and Medicare, we have to pay that. It's retirement, we have to pay that. It's health insurance, it's dental, it's the benefits for the employees.
So the benefits this 1 year went up $186,000?
Because they were never properly budgeted for.
They were paid.
They were
We
paid.
have no choice but to pay it. We're correcting line items.
Their it's mandated, we have to pay these things to the employees.
Okay. So needless to say, then next year, we shouldn't see any type of increase like this for next year then?
No, this was a course correction.
This was a correction.
Correct.
Okay. So I thought we fixed this last year,
Could not have fixed it last year. We haven't had somebody in finance in 3 years. So there
Yeah.
was no correction last year, I can promise you that.
Jim, we're making all these corrections as we go along. We worked very hard to get this corrected as to where it should be. And we're almost there. We're just about there, so
And the
we're
problem with that,
we're doing it
Mr.
right.
Mr. Summers, is because we've had nobody in that position for over 3 years, we haven't had anybody qualified in order to be able to go through all these line items and to be able to go through all these separate accounts that we have in order to make everything align properly. The selectmen and Mr. Guide have been doing the best that we can to stay within the budget guidelines, to only spend the monies that the town has approved us to spend in order to keep the town up and functioning. And so now that we have somebody that's qualified in order to keep everything in place so that we know exactly what's going on, to keep the open transparency going on, like Joe keeps talking about, so that you can see these numbers and these figures where the money is truly being spent, is now accurate after that 3 years. Because the people that we tried to put in that position were not qualified, and they actually screwed the whole thing up.
And I'd just like to add, because I've been a stickler, Mr. Guide has been a stickler, the rest of the board has been a stickler, and our town administrator, taking line items when you have invoices and putting them where they don't belong has stopped, okay? I don't care if in a line item we go over because we're bottom line budget, but year after year, and I take this from my past jobs, if you are over in a line item, it is okay if you have a bottom line budget, but you cannot go into the next year unless you understand per line item where you're spending that money and what you need to either do to correct it or find funds elsewhere. And I'm bringing that practice into this town.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other comments regarding, yes, ma'am?
Hi guys, Anastasia Harwood, 62 North Main. I just have a quick question looking over the budgets, and forgive my ignorance because I haven't been able to go to the meetings
It's okay.
recently.
We understand.
I'm just looking at the line 4520 Parks and Recreation. It doesn't look like we went over budget on the default, but the increase looks like it's quite a bit. And I'm just curious, are we doing something new? Or
Are we talking proposed or default?
I looked at default and saw that we didn't go over, and proposed looks like quite a bit more for this year.
So they want to do more.
They want to do more?
Yes,
Okay.
they want to do more.
Cool, yeah.
Correct. That's why that budget's up.
Okay, cool,
Right.
I didn't, yeah, like I said.
No, I completely understand. We have a rec director now,
Oh, okay,
and she is really trying to ramp up what the town does.
which I would love,
Yeah.
obviously, he would
Which is
enjoy.
the whole point, right? So,
You'll be seeing moving forward, the recreation is going to be offering more programs for both adults and children as we move forward.
Fabulous.
And once again, it's one of those things where we've gone several years without having a lot of these positions filled. We're now basically just about filled in every position, so things are starting to move in the right direction.
Can I ask you just to repeat your name?
Yeah, Anastasia, Anastashia. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Mary Jo. Last name? Harwood, Harwood.
And part of that goes to exactly what some of the comments that have been out there on social media about the town not doing a lot for them, because what we've been doing is minimizing the budgets so that we can just barely keep things afloat, because we're trying to be very conscious of the tax impacts that we are asking for the public to support and pay for. And now that we have the proper personnel in place to be able to start to implement all these things, is now why we're able to ask for the money, so that it will be spent properly and done how it should be done.
So likely next year we'll see like that 18,000, like where those potentially went.
Exactly,
So that
absolutely.
you people aren't just giving us a budget and then all these thousands of dollars ended up dumped into the unassigned fund balance, sitting there for years not being used.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Okay.
Any other comments or discussion regarding Article 5? Yes, sir.
John Sylvia, 41 Highland. I just want to say that as probably one of the newer members of town and being pretty active with different aspects, I can see, and I might be a little bit biased, but this is more for us and for you guys to understand. I can see from when I started helping out with the town to where we are today and the improvements that have been made, and I know this budget has been a point of contention for a long time. But I know when I first started asking questions about like, hey, why do we do this? It was, well, this is the way we've always done it. And I keep hearing these things that are being corrected that haven't been corrected in a long time. And as somebody that's like not on the board or not here and just been around helping out, it's really nice to see these guys up here doing what they can do to balance making us happy and keeping the town running and actually putting line items where they're supposed to be, funding things out of the correct pools of money and doing what we elected them to do. So I know there's a lot of criticism, and I think that's good. I think we need to ask these questions, and we need to keep them on their toes in answering these questions, but I wanted to just say that I see what you guys are doing, and the improvements are great, and please keep it up, the great work.
Mr. Moderator, may I say something? I'd just like to say something. I've been involved in the town for several years, sitting out there for a lot of years, in the past 3 years involved in what was going on. About 4 or 5 years ago, I noticed the trend was going on, that nothing was happening in this town. The town was going down, down, down. Everything was the same old, same old. Everything was being micromanaged. People, department heads were afraid to speak up. They were afraid to spend a dime to repair this and repair that. So over these past 3 years that I've been on the board collectively has changed the culture as to what's going on. We've eliminated we've eliminated the micromanagement, and I think the department heads can attest to that they have a budget, they're responsible for that budget, we oversee that budget. A lot of good things have been going on. And you might not see them every day, but believe me, behind the scenes, there's a lot of good things that are going on to move this town forward in a positive direction. So once again, I appreciate everybody's feedback, and it would be nice to see this crowd at a selectmen's meeting when we discuss a lot of these things to get the input. Believe me, it would be great. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the budget? Seeing there is none, Article 5, the operating budget will go on the ballot. Well, with the comment as amended, yes. With the change in the tax impacts.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I move to restrict reconsideration of Article 5.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Who did that?
Okay.
Dan.
Yeah.
Keep it that way, please.
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
I'm gonna change it up.
For
Mike's
people who are
doing the
not
next
familiar with the process, let me just take a 2-second explanation of what that motion is about and why people will say that. In a town meeting, a deliberative session, we have the right to go back and redo something we did before. And we also have the ability to ban ourselves from doing that. And so a motion to bar reconsideration just says, okay, we're all going to agree that we're done with that article and we're not going to go back to it later. And you say, well, why does anybody care about that? And it really comes out of traditional town meeting, not SB2. Because in a traditional town meeting, it would be not surprising if you had a contentious discussion and a vote, you thought you were done, but the meeting went on and went on and went on, and people went home because their kid was tired or it was 11 o'clock at night or whatever, and then at midnight, guess what? That article comes back again with a different group of people present. And the result shifts. And by the way, that was probably one of the things that was complained about in 1753 when I think it was Governor Wentworth got a letter asking him as the British, colonial governor to overthrow the Newton town election and have him do it again because there was issues about, what happened when and the procedure. So it's a very simple thing procedurally where we're just saying we're not going to go back and touch Article 5 again. And I think everybody in the room is probably done with it.
Yeah.
And so usually these go pretty quickly. Technically, you could speak, if anybody wants to, on the merits of that. I'm guessing nobody does. So all in favor of no reconsideration for Article 5, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, we're done with Article 5.
Let's
It'll
move
go
on.
on the ballot and we won't come back to it. Okay, on to Article 6. So this is the topic of this one is land purchase. To see if the town of Newton will vote to authorize the select board to acquire land on Merrimack Road, identified as Town Tax Map 12, Lot 6, Sublot 10, upon such terms and conditions as the select board deems to be in the town's best interest. Further, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $500,000 and 0 cents dollars, $500,000 for said acquisition, with $250,000 to come from the Town Building Capital Reserve Fund and the remaining $250,000 to come from general taxation. Estimated tax impact of that is 24 cents per thousand for 1 year. Recommended by the Board of Selectmen 4-0. I see our road agent would like to speak about it. I think the selectmen get the first chance. Do you want to just give a brief statement about it, or would you rather defer to Mr. Rivera?
Do you want to talk first, Mike?
Yeah.
You want to open up?
Okay. So most of you know this was on last year. Last year, we needed the terms were different. We needed a supermajority to pass it, and it actually failed by 5 votes?
No, almost 60.
60 votes, okay. It passed by a majority, but failed by a supermajority. Originally, when the board started doing their warrant articles, it was written the same way. We were told that this would be the last year that you would have the chance to purchase this property. After that, something else is gonna happen. And then, I'm gonna say probably about a month ago, the terms changed. I would say about a month, couple weeks, a month. And now what they, instead of the payment plan, they want a lump sum. So the board had to react and adjust. And the board decided that this is the best way forward. Now, this is it. You will not see this again.
Off the table.
After this year. This is our one last shot at it. My hope is that it passes and we get to acquire this land, not for immediate building, but for however down the road, we start to formulate a plan on how we're gonna make it, you know, a town safety complex with a library there and a town hall. But that's the idea behind this. Now I think you can talk, Mike.
Good morning, folks. I want to take a few minutes, because it's all going to come down to dollars and cents. But there's a lot before we get to the dollars and cents on this. The property, so everybody knows where it is, if you go up 8 Merrimack Road, just prior to the safety complex now, it would be the property to the left of that. It's an 8-acre parcel. You can see what and I'm going to tell you who the landowner is, because it's important, I think, in this presentation. It's Chet Beers. Chet was born here. He grew up here. He's got deep, solid roots into the town of Newton. He cares about Newton. It goes back to 2000 and I think 10 or 11, where there was a need for a new safety complex. And years prior to that, the town tried to get one passed on 8 Merrimack Road, and it failed multiple years. Police department didn't have a location to stay in. Fire department's buildings were failing, similar to town hall and the library, which we'll talk about in a minute. But Chet, with the prior police chief, Larry Streeter, saw the need, and they put together a plan that they presented to the town, which is now where the police department, the fire department, and the highway department house their operations. Similar deal. Chet cares about the town, so he put together a very affordable package for the town, and the town went for it, and hence that's where we are now. This is now our current offer from the same individual who's very generous. The terms have changed because his health has changed. And it becomes an estate thing. Sadly, Chet's health is in very bad condition. He's in hospice care. So this will not, Dan just said it, this will not be here after this year. This is done. I use this phrase a lot. It's the last bite of the apple. It's a great deal. I understand, and everybody here talks about numbers and tax impact. I do stuff a little simpler. I don't use the percentage on thousands because some people get lost in the minutia or the weeds. This will break down to every taxable household in town about $160 to buy this property. Right? And I know it's not, I don't think it's ever the right time. Ever. When you go to start to buy something, economy, the crunch, this year, the town evaluation, everybody's taxes have gone up. It makes it tough. But this is an investment in the town. That's what this is, an investment in the town. Will some of us in here benefit from it? I don't know, but the future of Newton will benefit from it. Right? You're gonna have a place to put a library, put town hall.
Open space.
Open space for town day. It's really unlimited. It's an 8-acre parcel. I've heard from people say, well, we've got all sorts of town, other property in town. We've analyzed it. All of us have analyzed it. There's no existing piece of town property that the town owns that makes sense. And I'm gonna blow all those arguments right out of the water. With one thing, fire suppression. You go put another building up somewhere in town, you are gonna have to put a fire suppression system in. Current code, we don't have it here, we've never had it here. the savings alone to put it up at 8 Merrimack Road is probably $250,000. We tap into the pump house that's up there now, so you can fire suppress the new buildings that are up there down the road. So that in itself is a savings. You're almost paying
It pays for itself.
for the property with that savings alone. It just, Chet asked me to try to put this deal together. I promised I would, but it's not up to me. It's up to the town. I really don't think you should miss this opportunity, because it's not happening again. And I think down the road, it could be 5, 10, 15 years. We did it with the bank. The town could have bought the bank 15 years ago for, I think, $100,000. You could have put town operations in there. But you know what, at the time, we don't have the money. It was $100,000 back then. That was a steal. Right? Let's not make the mistake here again. And go down the road 10 or 15 years and go, you know, we should have done it. That's all I got to say, folks. Let's make it happen.
I'm gonna add one more thing. Mike brought up about the pump house and the $250,000 savings. There is another huge savings that when the time comes, because of the way that that property is situated, the building of the buildings themselves, not having to clear the lots and do all that extra type of work that would be required for anywhere else, tree removal, stump removal, hence tapping into the water supply and all of that. Now you're probably looking at, I would say, close to $750,000 in savings when all is said and done, if that land is to be purchased. So when Michael said that $250,000 pays for basically half, the total savings and all of it basically pays for the property itself, to what the town would pay in the long run. Not to mention the fact that we're not, like somebody had brought up before, about we were going to take a loan out to pay it over the 4 years. Now we're saving the interest on that too, to where it's getting paid off upfront in full. And this town property will be set aside specifically for that purpose, for the town and the town buildings, and it will not be sold at another time, because we will make sure that it is specified for that purpose and that purpose only.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to
There's
make,
a lady from the back, and I'll get to you.
I just want to say one thing. I hope everybody in this room and those that will listen to this in the future understand the gift that this town has in front of it today, and understand under this board and with Michael's help the process that we're trying to do and lay out for the future. There's a statement that I go by. Poor planning on your part does not create the emergency on my part. The poor planning that has gone on in the past in this town has created an emergency that this board, Michael, Chet's giving us a gift. These are the things that we're trying to lay out for the future. This is, as Mike has said, our last bite of this apple, and if we don't, then we are creating a lot of expenses. Your taxes will have to go up, mine as well, so I see it from your point of view. Let's get this word out that this needs to pass.
And one last thing, we would be remiss in our duties if we didn't put this forward, being stewards of the town and looking for the future.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Kim and Antonio. Got the name right. So I fully support this. At one point, when I was on planning board, we talked about a master plan. So how has this been incorporated into that? I think that's important.
Because we don't have it yet, we're not gonna plan, or I should say, planning board's not gonna incorporate that in
We
their
would
master
have,
plan.
we would have said we're looking to get a central location. We did do that. We
Okay.
said we want a centralized, we don't have anything like Plastow does. We don't have a central place for the community to come together.
Right.
So being part of the master plan, you may not own that property, but you definitely want to plan for it accordingly.
Sure.
Centralizing it. Another thing with the messaging, I've talked to a few people about this. I think I'm supportive of it. When we looked at the Sanborn, when the high school was built, the budget was put out there and then they came back for more. The concern is if this property is built, now next year you're gonna come back, you buy the property, I'm sorry. Are you coming back the next year and saying, we want these structures? I know you said
Haven't
you're
got there
not,
yet.
but I'm talking about the communication out there. And when you're putting the communication out there, for example, if you're gonna build a town hall somewhere down the line, it's in the master plan. And what's gonna happen with this building? The sale of this building, for example, would go to pay towards that. I think that communication and that level of planning and that detail is what you're gonna need to get this through to the people out there in the town.
So I assume that you'd want to volunteer to be on a potential building committee moving forward when the time
Sure.
comes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
According to what you just said exactly, is so, in what Dan said, so in order to make things happen, we have to first purchase this property,
this-
because if we don't, nothing
Nothing.
happens.
This is step one.
Hence- One second. So once we get the land, in order to be able to do exactly what you said, to plan out, thoroughly process exactly how and what we want to do is going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not gonna happen within 1 year. It's probably not
about-
gonna happen within 2 years.
It's probably a 5-year
I would-
process.
I would safely say it's gonna take a lot of team effort in order to come up with what we need for the town to put this together. So no, the town will not be asking for tax dollars next year to all of a sudden just whip up a building and put it in, just so we can say that we've done something.
What I'm talking about is a vision. I understand that's
Right.
not what you're doing, and I'm standing here and we're all hearing that. What about the people in the community? They're looking for your vision. They want to understand how this is tied into everything else we're doing as a town and what your futuristic plans are. So to get the communication, we now have a town page. What are we doing to get it out there? What I'm proposing to you is a better way to message this or to get the message out for this to pass.
There's a current group of individuals working on the messaging right now, and basically it's a Friends of the Gale Library in conjunction with a lot of other people. They're getting some messaging put together. If you'd like to be part of that group, I'm sure Susan Peterson and Laura can, help you out. They'd be glad to have you. Glad to have you.
Who's, okay, but who's doing, so that's a group. Everybody in here should be communicating this out.
You're gonna be seeing some signs.
Okay.
And we're going to have a mass mailing coming.
Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna say, these,
Okay,
that's okay, yeah, but you
Okay.
thank you.
okay. So master plan, where are we with the master plan for the town?
That's
Is that
not
just
something
kinda
that we're
died?
talking about right now.
Okay.
Because it's not part of, the master plan, yes, you can say an open
but-
space, but
Okay, so
it's
that,
not
nothing's
how
been
that's
done.
working, right? And
Okay.
for us, any of us, to say anything about what the plan is to do this, that's for the town to
idea.
decide.
Okay.
So there'll be many committees, there'll be many surveys, I'm sure, like.
Okay, we're
but
gonna
I
get that
can't
going
s-
again then?
Huh?
Are we gonna get that going again?
100%.
most
Okay,
definitely.
good.
But this is just that,
We have to
like,
get through this step
baby
first.
first
Yeah,
step.
You have to get through this.
And then all of that will go
fall
out.
in
Like,
place.
there's no way, I mean, I can safely say no one on this board is gonna do anything without any town input, but it's not in the immediate.
You just want to share your vision of what you want the town to look like. Like, we started with a village district. We said what that was going to be, and we pulled the community in, and they participated in that. That's what I'm trying to convey here. I'm not suggesting you run out and you plan that we bought that. That's not what I'm saying.
I understand.
Okay? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Just realize that this will be the first step in that process.
This lady, I think it was.
I'll be quick. Ali Nahabedian. I just wanted to double check. Holly Nahabedian. Last year, because I do approve of this land purchase personally, I thought it passed. I didn't understand this whole supermajority thing. Is that not going to be, it's not going on that way this year?
Last year, because it was gonna be paid over multiple years, you need a supermajority for that to
Okay.
pass. But this year, because it's a one and done, you will not see this again. If
Simple
it
majority.
passes or not passes, you're not gonna see it again.
Okay.
But this is it. This is a one-shot deal.
Yeah,
to
because
get
I
it
was so
done.
excited that
So
night
it
going, oh,
doesn't have to
look.
pass by supermajority.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to make sure.
And just getting back to,
Mr. Favero.
I just want to add to what Kim had talked about. There's a master plan. It hasn't been as active in the past 3 or 4 years as it used to be. We were very active on questions and what we needed for the future of the town. But Kim, I believe the library and town hall has been on a master plan for 10 or 15 years. So the need for it's always been there, and it has been on a master plan.
The plan for this land includes putting a library on
I
it.
have no idea what the plan for this land is.
right now, it's the purchase of the property, period.
Okay. Now, the reason why I asked the question was, is the amount of money in the Gale Library capital reserve available
So
for this?
I'll touch on that, because I'll be honest, when this came to me.
We went through all this.
And it was to purchase it outright. The selectmen have the power to buy and acquire land through a public hearing. We don't even need to go to the voters. The problem was, the town doesn't have the money. They don't have the money. And the money in the Gale Library Fund, the warrant article specifically says, Gale Library construction. So I would expect that if this land purchase happens,
of that
I would
could be
expect that a warrant article next year will say to remove the words Gale in front of that fund, so then it would allow the selectmen to spend it on a library, not the Gale Library. That's the problem. The selectmen can't use it for anything other than the Gale Library located right there.
But wouldn't a new library building still be the Gale Library?
I can't say that. It's not right now. But we did look at all of the accounts and try to see if there was something, but it just
Technically,
wasn't
right
there.
now,
where the money's
by
coming from.
verbiage, that is the Gale Library, so the money can only be spent on that, not a future possible Gale Library. So in the eyes of the law,
Okay. Other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Goodman.
Mary Reardon, 7 Brenner Drive, library trustee. The reason it's called the Gale Library is because in 1910, I think, John Gale left in his will some money to start a library. And it says that the library must be named the Gale Library. I don't believe in reading that it ever said the Gale Library was at, I don't even know the address, 27 South Main Street, or whatever the address is. It just says it has to be named the Gale Library. So I think we need to look into whether that we could actually, I believe we could probably use that money to do a Gale Library, no matter where we put it.
Sure.
it's
So
down the
that
road,
warrant
that'd be
article
down the
was
road.
in, the original warrant article set up the trust, I think, was in 1982? Is that what it was, 1982? And it was very specific on what it could be used for. Not only the Gale Library, but there was other wording in there of what it
So
could be.
you're not speaking about the original creation of the
No,
library,
that was
you're talking
amended.
about the
No,
82?
I'm talking about
Okay.
this.
Yeah, the warrant article was
that
amended.
set up this
Yeah.
fund. That
That
has
was renamed
130
later, as I recall, right?
It's been
What's
changed.
that?
Is that the one that was renamed later?
It's been changed several times over the years. There's been,
Okay.
That I don't know.
I'll look into that.
That's fine, yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Okay.
On the third.
Other topic, other discussion on Article 6? Seeing there is none, Article 6 will go on the ballot as presented.
And Mr. Moderator, I move to restrict reconsideration of Article 6.
Wait, hold on, Dick.
Hi, I'm Bob Martinez. I live at 3 Chestnut Circle. I'm new to this town. I've been here almost exactly 1 year.
Welcome.
My wife and I moved into Sergeant Woods, and we love it here. It's a wonderful community. I'm sorry? I have a question. Why did this not pass the last time?
Not
Not enough people voted.
No, I mean, it lost for 5 votes or 65 or whatever.
No, it needed a three-fifths majority. We did not get the correct majority of votes.
Supermajority is
Yeah.
what was.
Let me
That's
just explain
supermajority,
that
that was it?
for a second.
Okay.
Under New Hampshire state law, if a town legislative body, that's the people here, the voters, wants to take out a bond or a
Promissory note or
a
whatever.
promissory note or something that binds future years' worth of citizens to pay it off, then they need a supermajority.
So the $50,000 payments were really constructed this,
It falls in the category of payments over time.
okay.
And that triggers the requirement for the higher vote, which kind of makes sense, right? Because you're taking an action here, for next year, which is fine. But if you were decided we're going to take a loan out that takes 30 years to pay, then those people that are actually paying it, had no say in it, right? So in that circumstance, that's why there's a higher percentage. And it passed at a majority level, but did not make the 3/5. It just fell short of that. And that's unfortunate. That's one of the challenges of bonding things, because people are less willing to sign up and pay interest, or in this case, just make payments over time. But I think that's the fundamental cause.
Okay. One additional question, if I may. Assuming that this property is acquired, and to me, it looks like a wonderful deal, but assuming that does occur, we're going to need to build a building, and that's going to cost $1, $2, $3 million.
On the road. Mm-hmm.
That's in the future for us. And the longer it takes to get to that point, the more it's going to cost. That's just inherent of construction costs.
Sure.
So given that 70% of our budget or more goes to education, how are we going to get there? And that's, no, I'm not looking for anybody to answer the question. I'm new here. I'm just looking at this saying, why does that exist? And maybe if the messaging were to tell the residents of the town that this is a part of a big picture. I mean, you guys were really very, very good in explaining that. But maybe the messaging is what we need to do. Make sure that the voters can actually see this for what it really is going to be. Sounds like the future of the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the motion. Did we get a second on the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so, all right, hang on. We're going to hold that motion off for a second because the voter's still in front of it. Yes.
Hi, Laura McDougall, 36 Highland Street. I would just like to say that the library and the talk of the library and the talk of the town hall is down the road. The most important thing is that we get this land at this price. It's never going to happen again. And if I could get Mike to come back up here and talk about why we can't just expand on the existing library or any of the, and also on this building. Okay. Down the line.
I'll touch upon it briefly, because this goes back to 2011-12. Building committees, we reevaluated all these buildings. We came back as subcommittees and determined back then that the fire station was the most efficient building at the time. We worked on that, we built a new fire station, so that one's off the list. The library and town hall were both on the list back then. They haven't changed. We've had independent engineers come in here, look at these buildings. Both buildings will fall under, and Sam can add to this if you want to, but if we touch a building and a percentage of that building cost goes to a certain level, then you make the entire building up to current code. The whole building up to current code. You will exceed the cost of what that's going to cost by bringing this building to current code. And even if you do that, we have 50 people in this room this morning, right? We have outgrown this building. We make it work. With unlevel floors and bad backs and all the other stuff that we do, right? It is not a safe building. It's not a healthy, safe building. So they've been great. They've served the town for a long time. They have a lot of character.
But it's time to move on.
But you can only throw so much money into character. So these have expired their life expectancy. And for the future of the town, these have to go somewhere else and be built new.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, any other discussion on Article 6? Seeing there is none, all in favor of no reconsideration?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes carry. We're not going to reconsider Article 6. And
Take a 5-minute recess.
there seems to be a desire to have a brief stretch in recess. Anybody opposed to that? Second. All in favor? Back to order.
Do not need a microphone.
All right. Okay, so we're ready to move on to Article 7. Titled Fire Department Pay. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $370,000 to fund the 24/7 fire EMS department as voted on in Warrant Article 17 in 2024. If approved, funding for the 24/7 fire EMS will remain as part of the operating and default budget in future years. The estimated tax impact is 36 cents per thousand, recommended by the selectmen 4-0. And I am going to note that we're going to make a typographical fix to that amount, so it's got 370,000.00. Okay, so it'll be a little easier to read, perhaps. But other than that, let's open up for discussion. I think we talked about that a little bit, but one of the selectmen, you want to lead off just with a quick statement on that?
I think it's me again.
It's you,
I don't know, I'm
Dan.
just looking down
It's
the end
you,
of the
Dan.
table. No, that's fine. So again, to recap, just in case, I don't know, somebody wasn't listening or here. In 2024, the town voted for 24/7 fire and EMS. In 2025, the selectmen put it in the budget with the fire chief, figured out how much it was gonna be and everything. 2025, the budget failed, and we went default. And we still did it. We were able to get it funded. We overspent, but we were able to pull money out of another fund to be able to keep it going. But I can't, the selectmen in the town can't do it again. That fund is now, it's not empty, because it's always money going in there. It's from all the ambulance transports and everything else goes into that account. But when we first started it, we had put a certain amount of money in that account, kind of like seed money, to get this program up and running. If there was anything the chief needed, he could get it from that. And now that it's been up and running, we have a good cost on what it's gonna cost us to do that. And that's what that number represents, what the cost is for this town to be 24/7 fire and EMS. So we separated it out of the budget, we put it in this warrant article, which has been checked by legal and DRA.
Double checked.
This is the way it's gonna go. And if it passes, we will have 24/7 fire and EMS going forward. If it doesn't pass, and the fire chief will be up to talk about this in a minute, even though he doesn't know I'm gonna do this to him, but.
Pack your bag.
We will have a normal, your fire station's not gonna go away. That stuff isn't gonna just go away, but now it's gonna be about 8 to 5 during the week. Like, that's what it's gonna be, with an on-call crew. And the chief can elaborate on what all that means, because I don't know, I'm not a fireman or a paramedic. But to boil it all down, this is the simplest way we could put it to the voters, to show what it is, and if they want it, it passes, and it'll be included in the budget going forward, and the default budget. So, Mr. Summers, to that, if this passes, it will be included in the default budget going forward. So you will see an increase in the salaries, you know what I mean, of that amount. With that being said, I'm done. The fire chief.
I'm gonna, before the fire chief comes up, so we're gonna do a little bit of quick history on this and why people are out there going, why are we asking for this money? So a little over 3 years ago, and the chief will attest to this, all the fire chiefs in the surrounding area were getting together. And the chief had come to me and asked me to come with him and start sitting in on some of these meetings so that I could gather the information and be able to bring it back here and inform my fellow selectmen what was going on and what was taking place. Because at that time, we had an ambulance service that was free to this town, that was serving this town free. And this town was not paying 1 red cent for it. And they were coming and they were responding, and they had appropriate call times to the responses when people called for a 911, okay? So what happened was the people who owned that ambulance service sold it. Now, when they sold it, the people that bought it now have to pay the loan that they bought for that. So they're not gonna give us free ambulance service, right? So, again, the fire chiefs were sitting around trying to come up and formulate a plan so that there were 6 of us towns involved that were gonna be in unison together. And one was Plastow, us, Hampstead, Atkinson,
Danville, Sandown.
and, right, so, and now here's the thing. So in order to keep it, again, within budget form so that the cost would not be outrageous, we were trying to come up with a plan to where there was only gonna be a couple of ambulances from this company that were gonna be far away from here.
15
And their
minutes.
response times would have been if
15 to 20 minutes.
if they were available and not already responding to one of those other towns, to come here at least 25 minutes. And if you're having a heart attack, 25 minutes doesn't cut the mustard, okay? So when we sat down and we looked at what it was going to cost us, what we did was we took out an insurance policy that some of you might remember for 1 year, okay? So that we could formulate and do this ourselves, like Dan was talking about, in order to do it. And this board, again, with the foresight, watching that locomotive come through the tunnel and that light getting brighter and brighter, during COVID, what did we do? We took funds that we had that were able to be used for emergency purposes, technically using the money correctly. We used some of that money to purchase a new ambulance, okay? Then this is how this town operates, as we have been trying to operate, to save you, the taxpayers, money.
It was from the
So
ARPA
we were
funds.
able to take that money along with some other monies that we had. We purchased a brand-new ambulance because ours was old and it was starting to fail. As a matter of fact, the engine seized up on it and we ended up replacing it, okay? So we were already getting the motions going, saving the taxpayers the money, trying to head off this emergency as it is, like Michael talked about. So we got that in place. We got that ambulance. We got it situated with a brand-new stretcher in it. Again, no cost to this town.
Through ARPA funds.
Right, through opera funds and everything else. We got all the medications in it and everything that the EMTs need and whatever are in it at no cost to the town. All right? So now what we're asking of you is because we need, not that we want, we need an ambulance service so that when somebody in here calls, that within 5 to 10 minutes, that ambulance will be at your door to be able to save your life.
It'll be a Newton ambulance.
And that's what we're talking about. What kind of figure do you want to put on one life? I get worked up over this because that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about saving somebody's life. We need this. We need an ambulance to show up when somebody says, I'm dying. For every one of you, whether you're old, how many of you have kids that are mischievous and get into things? And you have emergencies? Because if you pay attention, Exeter Hospital's having issues. All the other hospitals are having issues. We need somebody that can give you medical attention right then and there. That is the importance of this whole issue. Again, this isn't a want, this is a need for you, the people of this town.
Chief.
Chief.
Good morning. On behalf of the men and women in Newton Fire and Rescue, thank you all for attending. Does the board, we're always talking, is it all right if I face?
Go right ahead.
Beautiful.
Do what you gotta do.
I support it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn the mic around, Chief, so that
Turn the mic around.
It's picked up for the...
I talk loud enough. Okay, no problem. To touch on what Bob touched on. For many, many, many years, the town had a private ambulance company, which everyone that's been in town for a long time knows, Trinity EMS. The owners of Trinity did not really care if they were making a profit or not for those 6 communities. They were sold to another company, Pride Star. Pride Star doesn't like losing money. They approached all 6 towns several years ago to inform the towns that it would not be free anymore. There'd be a dollar sign to it. Newton's share, once Plastow Fire left for 5 communities, was, I believe, $139,000 the start, then 3 to 5% every year after that. At that time, the decision was made that it would be better for the funds to go into the town, into the infrastructure of the town to provide 24-hour fire and EMS. I know Bob touched on EMS, but we also do the fire side. Since covering this station 24/7, the response time for those that unfortunately needed us, we've been at your doorstep with either a fire truck or an ambulance within 4 to 6 minutes. When it was a call department, that was 12 to 16, and then we'd sit there and wait. Even though we had an ambulance, we'd have to sit there and wait because of a contract and wait for the private ambulance company to come in and transport you.
If they came.
This is real simple. I'm not up here to scare nobody, nothing. That's not my job. What I'm gonna say is real simple. The seed money that was put in has been spent. The EMS reimbursement that every community gets has been spent for us to be covered 24/7 for 25. We approached the private ambulance company. Their starting quote was approximately $700,000 to $725,000 to provide EMS service only for the town of Newton. We still have to provide the fire side. I can tell you, it's simple math, folks. You can look at the default budget, you can look at the proposed budget. There's $250,000 for salaries. I stood up here, my Deputy Kane stood up here in the fall of '23, the beginning of January. The last meeting I was up here was January, I think 12th or 20th, and explained to everyone that it's approximately $450,000 just to cover 24/7, and then you have the fire side, the call side. Because we are still a combination department. We still need the call force to come out for the high priority medicals and for fires and everything else that we do. You can't run. If this warrant article fails, this $250,000. I'm standing up here telling everyone right now, this is simple math. Doesn't make a difference in my world if the budget passes under the fireside or it's the default budget. The number's the same, 250,000. If you take 500,000 to staff 24/7, we already spent the first quarter of fiscal '26 covering that station 24/7. We are going to be lucky if we can staff that station for the remainder of the year with one person, 8 to 5. After that, you will rely on the call department. I can tell you standing here now, the call department really is the same as what it was 10 years ago for staffing. The difference is the call department today, majority of them have multiple jobs. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the call department would come out for a lift assist, a simple 5-minute call, because they knew Trinity was coming and they didn't have to do a transport. At 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to see that because Trinity's not coming. Okay? An average transport in this town doesn't make a difference. But if we go to Plastow, it's a lot shorter time. It's anywhere from about an hour and a half to 2 hours by the time the crew gets there, gets the call, gets there, assists, transports, and does paperwork. Newton is one of the lowest paying towns for fire and EMS. The only thing that Newton had that a lot of the other communities didn't have, because we hired 10 new per diems just to come to work for Newton. We have a paramedic in Newton, simple, again, making $25 an hour. They're going to Danville for $40 an hour. The only reason they were here, protecting this community, because they were doing 24-hour shifts. They were able to go from their career job to Newton to do a 24-hour shift. This warrant article fails, that's going to go away. No fault of mine, no fault of the board. The board has been great for the past several years to get us to where we are today. And that was the reason why it was put to a warrant article, put back to the voters. The voters in '24 voted. They wanted 24-hour coverage. They did not want a private ambulance company. That was great. We ended up staffing, ended up getting a brand new ambulance, ended up redoing the fire station so members could sleep to meet code. Everything was fine until the budget failed in '25. We made it by the Board of Selectmen, their due diligence. We survived. There was a lot of shifts uncovered. I apologize if you had a mutual aid fire truck or ambulance arrive to your house. We didn't have the budget. I can tell you straight up, we already done the math. Deputy Cook's here. He's done the math. The board's done the math. If this warrant article fails March 10th, I have no choice to stop the 24-hour coverage on March 13th. It's impossible. It is impossible, folks. So I just want to make it clear, please do not call me like a lot of people call the road agent in regards to the roads on March 11th. If you're going to wait 12 to 15 minutes for a mutual aid ambulance to come.
If they come.
And I can tell you, we've had an incident just recently that we had the town ambulance, it was Deputy Cook, matter of fact, the town ambulance was doing an EMS transport. The fire truck went out to mutual aid, and about a half hour later, we had another medical. Merrimack, Amesbury, East Kingston, Plastow fire was unavailable. We had to have a crew come back from that fire to grab the second ambulance to do that medical in town. The big thing everybody's got to remember is the fire side. We're at your door 4 to 6 minutes. Every structure fire we've had since that crew was there, including the one we just had 2 days ago, the first crew, we call them the duty crew, the duty crew was on scene within 4 minutes. They had the fire knocked down before the nearest mutual aid fire truck came. They stopped that shed, the extension of that shed going to the house. South Main Street, first crew knocked it down. I've got the other two. So that's the fire side. EMS, we don't stand up here, we don't put it on Facebook, we don't brag when we have saves. I can tell you this department, in the past year, having 24-hour staff, has had countless saves of individuals that would not be with us today, either a resident or a visitor with us today, if that station was not staffed 24/7 and you were relying on a mutual aid ambulance. Those are the facts. If anybody has any questions, I'll be more than glad.
Chief, can I ask you a question? You talked, I think this is important, you talked about several years ago, on-call, but today, are your employees on-call in this town?
The on-call staff is still on call with a 24-hour crew. The only difference is the on-call staff, on the medical side, Alpha Bravo, lift assists, paper cuts, they do not
You
respond.
don't have 24-hour coverage there. Where's your staff coming from if they have to respond at
Maybe.
night?
Maybe.
They're coming from home.
And is their home in Newton?
Correct, they're not working. We have a lot of call members that work three jobs.
So you've got a lot of people coming outside of Newton to try to get to that ambulance and then get to the house or to the scene.
Correct, they're not coming.
I think it's important that the voters understand that. That's why I'm asking the question.
They're not coming.
The response time is hindered by where people live or work at the time of that call because they're not at the station.
Correct. I can tell you I don't want to single out Ben. Ben lives, his address is Vermont. And I'll speak you. What college? BC. Ben is one of our per diems that we were fortunate to hire, that when he's not in school, he'll drive the 3 hours to come down for a 24-hour shift. He's not going to drive 3 hours. He's the farthest. We have others that live in Drake.
If you're not 24 hours, he's not available.
They're not
at
available.
night to come into a
They're not available.
emergency call.
We actually have, I believe, 9 members that live in town.
Okay, so that limits the response of who can actually come. I think it's important for the
Correct.
voters to know. Secondly, I want to cover on mutual aid. If you don't have the people to help out of the towns, how much help are you going to get from those other towns?
I'll tell you, as a chief, you're not gonna get it. And it'd be in the same token, if a surrounding community, I know Bob was around several years ago that we went to another community because they kept going to mutual aid. It'd be the same thing in Newton. If we were 24 and we were running to the community next door 2 or 3 times a day on a regular basis, the Board of Selectmen and the residents would be saying, time out. Our budget is not to fund your budget.
Chief, has that already happened to a degree?
To us, the only time, I could tell you, a new chief came in a local department, they went from 2 ambulances to 1 ambulance. They responded twice to the town of Newton because we were unavailable. And they ended up turning around and going back to their community because their priority is their community, not Newton. So then we have to scramble and find another ambulance to it.
And once again, what is the value of a life?
Whatever the increase of tax is going to be. That's what Newton will put the value of a life for a resident or a guest, whatever the impact is on their taxes.
You know, and I think we as a select board have taken the initiative to put in place those necessary adjustments that we needed to make because we had the foresight to see down the road that this is what we needed to do. So that's why we're asking the support of the town to help fund this project.
And again, this isn't about us, it's about you. It's about you.
All of
It's
us.
about your loved ones.
About all of us.
It's about life. Plain and simple.
Other comments or questions regarding the article? Yes, sir.
Amber at 18 Mine. This is more of a technical question. I think Mr. Guide alluded to it. But what's the difference in this warrant article where it's going to be able to go into the budget in future budgets?
the budget process
According
works.
to the DRA, which is the Department of Revenue in New Hampshire, and our legal team that we have to contact about all these warrant articles, that this is specific wording makes it legal for it to go into future budgets and the default budget.
Other comments or questions on this article? Seeing there are none, this article will go on to the warrant as presented.
Mr. Moderator, I move to restrict reconsideration on Article number 7 is written.
Second.
All in favor of not reconsidering? Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes carry. We will not come back and reconsider Article 7. Okay, on to Article 8, which reads, it's titled To Establish Contingency Fund. It says, to see if the town will vote to establish a contingency fund pursuant to the provisions of RSA 31:98-A for the current year for unanticipated expenses that may arise, and further, to raise and appropriate $40,000, 40,000, not again, to put in the fund, this sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. It notes that a majority vote is required. Article has no tax impact, and it was recommended by the selectmen 4-0. And I will just note here that there will be a typographical correction. The town will be capitalized in the first sentence. Anyone from the board like to speak to that briefly?
So this is the third year this has been on the warrant. It's passed every year. We haven't, the select board, since I've been on it, since it started, we haven't used any of it. Even when the fire department was going 24/7 on the default budget, I think it was important for us not to use it, to show the town that this is like
Fiscal responsibility.
absolutely 100% emergency needed type thing. And it hasn't happened yet. The first year we did it, we used the unassigned fund balance. So I would say, I know a lot of people like to get up and say, well, there is a tax impact. The tax impact for these dollars
Already been
had to have been 4 or 5 years ago, because it came from the unassigned fund balance that far ago. And that's, the unassigned fund balance is the surplus money that's left over from your taxes. It goes into that. So I would say it's 5 years ago that was taxed and raised. And the town hasn't used it yet, thankfully. And we just want to keep it going. Nothing has come to that level where we've had to actually use that money. But it's good for a just in case he has a bridge go out, a culvert go down. It's
contingency.
And it's in December when his the road agent's budget is completely spent and we don't have anywhere else to get it, we can go to this and get it. That's it.
Can I say one thing? It's important to know that this isn't adding each year, 40,000 each year, it's just 40,000.
That's right. It goes back.
Stays the same every year. It's not adding to a bucket. So it's just 40,000. I hope, I don't know.
No, that's correct. You're absolutely correct.
And once
It's
again,
not building up.
Once again, just to reiterate, because a lot of folks in this town, they see no tax impact and they vote no anyway. There's no tax impact to you. You've already been taxed on it.
Mr. Pavera.
Mike Pavera, road agent. We did put this in 4 or 5 years ago. You just said the date. One of the reasons this was put in, it's a mechanism that this year I've spent $17,000 out of my budget for storm-related incidences. They're unanticipated. We don't know what that value is. It got absorbed in my budget, which to some degree, even though there's not a line item for it, we absorb it. In the past, over the past 18 years I've been road agent, we have had years where storm-related summer hurricanes, we've gone through the whole gamut of stuff, have been $70,000 and $80,000 out of my budget, which we can't absorb. Trish, who isn't here, and myself have done all sorts of FEMA filing that takes forever. Forever.
2 to 3 years.
Sometimes it does. What happens is, let's just use this as an example right now. The storm, which won't hit a FEMA declaration because it doesn't hit the threshold. But if we had a blizzard, the local FEMA puts together numbers that we give to the state. The state sends it to, Washington. and they'll look at that number and they'll declare it a FEMA event. Then the ball starts, and that ball could take 10 to 12 to 14 to 16 months to get all the paperwork in to be reimbursed. You might not see the check for multiple years. This mechanism helps because if we're working on a FEMA event this year, it'll help absorb police, fire, and highway. Highway, mostly weather-related stuff. We're the ones that take the hit, right? So that'll be able to offset the whack that we take. And you guys, when we get the FEMA event, have a mechanism of receiving that money and putting it somewhere, not letting it go into the general fund, which is what happened for years.
Which we do.
We'd receive the money, but the departments wouldn't be able to offset their overrunning cost. So this is important for that mechanism.
Thank you, Mike.
Other comments and questions? Any other comments, questions, or discussions regarding this Article 8?
Because it says to vote to raise, to establish.
You have to do it every year.
Yep,
Every
yep,
year
every
it
year,
has to
yep.
be established.
Because you're taking money, putting it back, and
Yep.
then it established.
It's in and out.
Thank you.
DRA wording.
Okay. Any other technical questions, discussion? Seeing there are none, Article 8 will go onto the ballot as presented.
Mr. Moderator, I move to reconsideration of Article number 8.
Second?
Second. Sleeping.
Yeah, come on, wake up.
We got a second from over
Almost
there?
done.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
yeah.
second
All
it.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes carry. Okay, onwards.
You made it.
Article 9. This is a
You
citizen's
gotta stay.
petition.
Can't
To
leave.
see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of
Oh,
$6,031
Pat's here.
to support a lake host program at the Newton Town Boat Ramp for the 2026 summer season. The Lake Host program is a collaborative effort between New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services, New Hampshire Lakes, and local lake associations. It trains and employs individuals to provide courtesy boat inspections to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive plants such as milfoil from one lake to another, thereby protecting public lake uses such as swimming, fishing, and boating. It is the citizen's petition, it's noted, and a majority vote is required. The estimated tax impact is only 1 cent per thousand, and it was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 4-0. Do we have one of the petitioners that wants to speak in favor of that? They get the first shot. Not seeing anyone, does anyone, I'll just open it to the floor.
So this is something that,
Hang on,
Oh,
one sec, we got
Pat's,
it.
we got some, Pat's gonna talk about it.
Pat Masterson, 4 Hayman Circle. So this is an exciting year for this because we have gotten funds, almost $90,000, to upgrade the boat ramp, which means that more people will probably be using this. So what the lake hosts do, they're educators. So if they see something like, they're the ones that report cyanobacteria, and that can affect the town beach too. Do we close down things? Do we keep them going? But we have a great natural resource here, Country Pond. And it's used not just boaters, swimmers, everyone, not to mention that it's beautiful. But what we're trying to do is educate boaters when they come in and out of the water to be aware of milfoil, spiny naiads, all kinds of things that can really degrade Country Pond. So we're hoping that we can continue the Lake Coast program, and this will afford us to hire educators at the boat ramp.
Thank you very much.
so the town over the course of many years at this point have been contributing. The dollar amount has increased as, like everything else these days. And the importance is, like Pat was talking about, when you go by some of the other bodies of water and all you see is green, and you say, wow, how could you swim in that? Who would want to boat in that? Who would want to fish in that? Right? This is to help to prevent things like that from happening. Like our town beach that Pat brought up, to where a lot of the townspeople like to go, which we've had the police chief enforce the parking, so that I hope that a lot of townspeople have become aware of the fact that now there's a lot more parking available for the townspeople to be able to go down there and park during the summer, and to be able to use our beach, so that you're not fighting outside townspeople to be able to get to it, to keep those waters clean and clear, so that not just boaters, it affects the whole use of that pond. But we didn't wanna just adopt this and put it in the budget like some of the other towns have, because this is and could be looked at as a limited number of people that might be using it as a boat or fishing type of expense. So we put it out there to the taxpayers, so it's up to your discretion to whether or not you want to approve this.
Thank you.
And folks, the tax impact, as you can see there, it's 1 cent per thousand, so it's negligible.
Any other comments or questions?
Roger Hamill. Like you said, we've approved this now for many years. And wouldn't it be a better idea to add another sentence to this to say that it will become part of the operating budget and the default if it passes?
So I'll address that, because I've been asked that. I can't even tell you how many times. No, because not everybody in town uses the boat ramp. Not everybody in town uses that body of water. So it's not fair, in my opinion, or the board's opinion, to spend the taxpayer money on something that only benefits, I don't even know how much percentage of the population.
1%, 2%.
So that's why it's on the warrant. That's why it'll stay as a citizen's petition, because we want the town. If the town decides to do it, great. If the town decides not to do it, great. I don't want to include, the board doesn't want to include it in the budget going forward, because some people may never use that lake ever, and they don't want to do that. So, and that's their vote. That's the whole point of why we do this. So that's why it stays as a citizen's petition.
Any other comments, questions, or discussion regarding Article 9? Seeing there is none, Article 9 will go on the ballot as presented.
Yeah.
I'm guessing I'm going to do that. Motion regarding,
I don't think you need.
I don't think we need to do it on this one.
they don't want to bother. That's fine.
If
We're
it
almost
really
to
concerns you that much, Mr. Hamill, you could always do a citizen petition next year to put it in the budget.
True. Okay, so, and let's not tee things up for next year yet. So we
get
have
through this year.
no motion to ban reconsideration, which kind of makes sense because we're almost done anyway. So we're done with Article 9, we'll go on the ballot as it's presented. We're on to our final article, Article 10, which is another citizen's petition to see if the town of Newton will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $7,200 for the purpose of doing maintenance and repairs to the ball fields at Green Park. If this article passes, these funds will be part of the town operating budget in subsequent years. And again, there's a parenthetical notation that this is a citizen's petition and a majority vote is required. The estimated tax impact is 1 cent per thousand, and it was recommended by the Board of Selectmen 4-0. Do we have one of the petitioners who'd like to speak to that? We have a gentleman here who looks like that grew.
John Sylvia, 41 Highland. So a couple years back, we raised some funds to improve the ball fields that were just kind of deteriorating. We have a company, Oasis, that all they do is ball fields, and we felt that was like the best for the town to get somebody that does ball fields, right? Year after year, baseball gets together, and you know, a lot of the parents come out and we spend all day down at the fields kind of getting them prepped for opening day, getting them looking good. But at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of parents that don't do ball fields. You know, that we got some strong backs and some shovels and not always the right equipment, but we get it done and we get it presentable. So we went and worked with the board and got some money together to redo these fields to get them where they needed to be, and it was great. It was great for the first year. And we quickly realized that we missed a step, and that's on us. Like, we definitely missed a step. Both baseball and the board, we kind of missed this critical step, which was maintaining the fields, right? Now we have these beautiful fields again, and we have a landscape company that comes in. They don't always bag it. The grass gets in the infield, and it starts growing in the infield. And at the end of the season, we're kind of left with a not so amazing looking field that we just spent all this money on, right? Talking with Oasis, he's like, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And we're like, well, crap, we didn't know that, you know? I personally spent a majority of my summer down at the field with machines, making sure the fields stay playable, because, you know, I was one of the people that got the money together to get these fields improved and get our kids to be able to play on some nice fields. After kind of going through everything, we still have one field left to do, right?
Yes.
So the original article, just so you guys have the full picture, is it was 3 fields, one at a time. We've accomplished 2 of them. We've pumped the brakes on the 3rd field because we've realized that, again, unfortunately, we missed kind of this critical step. We thought a landscape company was a landscape company, but it's really not doing what we need to do for the fields. So we reached out to Oasis, the original contractor, to say, hey, what can you do to help us keep these fields up, especially between spring and fall ball, where the fields aren't being used, right? The fields get used, they're a lot more manageable because there's cleats on them, the grass isn't growing, X, Y, and Z. But there's, what, a month and a half, 2 months in between spring ball and fall ball where they kind of just sit, and unfortunately nobody's down there to maintain them, right? So this article protects our initial investment and has a company that specializes in fields going there a couple times a month rather, taking care of the lawn, dragging the infields, making sure they stay in playable condition, not only for baseball, but for anybody else that wants to use the field, because there are kids down there that play games of pickup. There's different coaches that go down and do warm-ups and drills and such like that. So again, this is kind of just it's a word I'm looking for. This is a continuation to ensure that our initial investment to redo these fields stays protected, and we have somebody that's continuously looking over the fields to make sure that they stay in the condition where we want them to stay.
Thank you. Mr. Moderator? I'd like to speak in favor of this article because we have a resource at Greenie Park that's, I mean, really great. I mean, it was put together. I probably have to defer to Mr. Pavero on that because he was one of the people that initially put it together. It's a great resource for our community. I was just blown away this year by the number of kids that are actually playing on the fields and using them. It's great to see, but it's an investment that we have to keep on top of, because if it sits there and nothing gets done, it goes to crap and it doesn't do anyone any good. So I'm all in favor of this, and as long as we can, you know, come up with the correct contract and everything to get this taken care of, I think it's a great investment for, once again, for the future of our youth.
Yeah, and just to kind of a little tidbit of monetary information for everybody that's here. You have those couple of months in between where, you know, you just have a landscape company going, and, you know, it's not really their fault. They're not field guys, right? They're lawn mowers, right? And different employees mow differently and whatever, and it doesn't always get bagged, and then the grass grows.
John, just for one thing, that's been addressed this year several times.
Right, which is a great improvement, right?
Yep.
But just in that month and a half, 2 months in between spring ball and fall ball, we're gearing up, go down there, and I try to help out as much as I can. And we walked down and we saw the girls' softball field, which I believe was the first one that we did.
Yes.
First one that we did, and it looked gorgeous. And I called up Oasis and I was like, "This is atrocious," and just nobody's been on it for a month and a half, 2 months. baseball luckily was able to pull together almost $2,000 to get him back out to get that field back in playable condition. And that's kind of where we learned, like, oh crap, we need to stay on top of this. This needs regular maintenance, and we can't just let it sit for a month or two at a time, because that initial investment, which wasn't that much more per field than that almost $2,000, like, we're right back to square one. So this just year after year, month after month, protects what we've already spent.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Cheryl Saunders, 4 Whittier Street. I noticed on this petition that that you want to put it in the budget for next year. So if you can do...
Not us.
Okay.
That's a citizen's petition, so
If it goes into the budget for next year, why can't we do that for the lake?
the select board didn't want to.
This is
We
coming
didn't
from
write
the
that
public.
either.
This is a citizen's petition, like I said.
Right.
To Mr.
So the citizens petition for the Lake Coast program, they didn't want it to be put into the budget?
They haven't asked.
Okay.
Great question.
Yeah.
Question, and I know this is a citizen's petition, but I was actually questioning the way it's written, the legality of it, and the reason why I'm asking that is, we see in other ones where there's petition salaries increased, like say the fire department, we understand that it's gonna be a perpetual event to where it goes into a budget, we know that it's year after year, it's going to be. The way this is written, if this article passes, these funds will be part of the town operating budget in subsequent years. As a citizen partition, with the legality speaking, can they speak to, we understand it's 1 cent per thousand, that would be this upcoming budget, but the way that seems to be worded is it's gonna be 1 cent per thousand every year here on after, and if so, would that not fall under the recreation budget? I know the recreation went up $68,000, or at least the proposed is recommending $68,000. Should something like this be part of the recreation budget instead of a citizen's petition?
So it's a citizen's petition. If it goes in, then yes, I would have it put in the recreation. And so once it becomes part of the budget, it's part of the budget, okay?
It would be in the
So
town
as the
buildings.
bottom figure is, like we talked about, that's it, plain and simple. And then if we needed to increase it, now that that has become a line item.
It would be
right?
contractual as
Because it's
well.
up to you to approve the line item, because we don't have one, and there's, would be zero there. This would then create that line item for us in recreation, and then if we needed to increase that over the course of time, because it costs more money.
It would be a contractual.
Then it would have to be put
It would be a
in to
contractual
the
issue.
new budget. And then if the new budget fails, then we would only still have that set amount of money to be able to spend in that line item. And being bottom line budget, if we had money somewhere else that we needed to pull to be able to spend it, we would be able to do that.
Okay, so if this would pass for this 1 year, it would not be added to the default budget, so where we couldn't remove it if we wanted to later on?
Nope, it will be, with any warrant article that has to do with money, monetary warrant articles, not including ones like the contingency fund or ones that go in a building reserve fund. Any warrant article that has to do with budgetary items goes in, that becomes the part of the budget. So it's because it passed. So therefore, the next year, let's just say I'm gonna use a small number just so it's easier. Let's say the total default budget was $1 million. Okay, and that was what passed. Now, and then there were warrant articles that totaled $20,000. That $20,000 now gets added to that million.
Not capital warrant articles.
Right.
Capital, yeah.
Okay, so if this warrant article passed, now that is part of the default budget.
Gotcha. So just to reinforce, that's what I was trying to get at, was that the...
Same with the fire, same with the, what was the other one?
So approving the penny per thousand would be a penny per thousand every year from here on out, because we couldn't get rid of it because it'd be part of the default budget, correct?
It would become a, it would
It just
become a
becomes part of
contractual
the
issue
budget.
as well.
Yeah, the penny you can't think about
Yeah.
because the value of a house may change. So per thousand, when you're thinking of that, You just gotta think of it, that 7,200 goes into the budget.
It would be a contractual thing that we'd have to look at anyway, just like our landscaping.
So, I'm sorry, instead of the penny, then I would say that 7,200 would be an added tax every year from here on out, and we wouldn't be able to remove it because it'd be part of the default budget.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Hold on. You alluded to saying that our rec budget was up $69,000. It's up like 17,000.
The recreation, is that what you're talking about? Oh, okay, I said that, all right.
I'm sorry, you scared the crap out of me when you said that.
Just jump in for a second to make it clear. Anytime the legislative body adds something to the budget, whatever it might be, on an ongoing basis, then that, after a year, becomes part of the default budget. However, that doesn't mean the voters cannot
amend it.
Even though it's a bottom line budget, they can remove it in the future. They can remove that entire line item. And as I will note, you gave the scenario that yes, they could add more to that line item in the budget, but they can also take from it. In other words, it would be entirely possible, and I'm not suggesting this should happen, but in theory, if we now had a line item in the budget that said, maintaining the playing fields at Greenie Park, $7,200, right? That the selectmen could spend $7,200, not in the first year, in successive years. They could spend $7,200, they could spend $3,000, and take the money out of that budget because it's a bottom line budget and use it for the fire department. Or they could say, crumbs, we had a big tree fell in the middle of the field, we need to spend more money, we're going to spend $10,000 this year in that area. So that flexibility exists, and the default will reflect that, right? The amount that was budgeted in the preceding year that whenever it last got approved. So it's not like it's locked in at that number forever. And there is the opportunity for the voters, they can zero out line items if they really want to. And then that binds the board. We rarely do it because there's rarely an instance where the voters look at something and decide they want to just flat knock it out. I mean, because there's just few circumstances where I've been here many years, I only saw the voters do that once, where they felt that there was an actual sort of function in the town that they wanted to just say no. It was kind of dramatic when it happened, but that's a rare one.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions regarding Article 10?
I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Clarity. So this would be a contract with the vendor. Is that a correct statement?
I would assume that we would definitely
Well, one
need to go to
says yes, one
contract
says
with
no. Is it a contract?
I would-
I don't know, it's not written that way.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know, it's not written that way, it's just a dollar amount.
Yeah. But to be prudent,
Okay,
I'm
so
sure
let's
we would-
assume it's a contract. So that contract could increase after, let's say, 3 years. So you could see an increase, just so everybody knows. You could see an increase in this bud line item. If it's a contract,
It's possible.
which I'm assuming it has to be.
So I'm sure it is, but I guess let's put it a different way for everybody to understand. If this was a position, right? If it was another police officer, 3 years from now, we don't go back to the voters to give him a raise.
Right. So it would be, in other words, the increase would show up in the default, no problem.
Yes, that is my assumption. This is
That's-
all on its face, because
Yep.
right now, like I said, it's just a dollar amount. It
Right,
doesn't
exactly.
say anything else right now.
Right.
If it passes, and it's included in default in the proposed,
Right.
it's gonna start at that number.
I guess I don't want everybody to think it's always going to be 7,200. It could
No.
increase.
It could.
Okay.
The main purpose of this is
Is
to
to
take care
establish
of the
it.
ball fields.
Exactly.
And that's what I would think the board would do on the passage of this, is take care of the ball fields. Specifically, the ball fields. My guess is that there will be an actual line item that says Greenie Park ball field maintenance. And that's what it is. Not mowing, not landscaping, it's literally gonna say that. So, it might even reference the Warrant article.
Joe, can you speak to, you're still on Parks and Rec, right? Yes. Can you speak to I think we touched upon this at one of the Park and Recs meeting as far as like maintenance, right? And at one point, when we first looked at the Park and Rec budget, it was like $1,200 for maintenance for both Greenie and the beach.
Yeah, John, that's one of those things that I alluded to before, that things were done in the past that would,
Correct.
that are not being done now, because we need to be progressive and
Right.
move forward. For 10 years, nothing was done. Nothing was put into Greenie Park,
So just to put that in
beach,
perspective.
any of the town buildings, and we're paying, as Mike alluded to earlier, we're paying for it now.
Right.
So hopefully, moving forward, we're doing things. We've had to do things at Greenie Park over the past year. We had to have a landscape come in, the tree guy, and cut trees back because emergency vehicles couldn't come back.
Yeah.
We had to move some loam piles because they were put there, and the fire marshal says, get that out of there, because vehicles couldn't get in.
Right.
So we have had to spend money, but hopefully, in the future, we'll be able to budget for that appropriately, so we have the money to spend what we need to do.
Yeah, so I think that's important for everybody to like really understand. I mean, I think that everybody here can agree that to maintain two locations the size of Town Beach and Greenie Field, $1,200 is just not a realistic number. I think that coupled with if we had a specific like town DPW that was responsible for maintaining things, it would still cost the town far more than $7,200 for a year. So I just wanted to make that point.
But Joe, you bring up a good point, and I've talked about this with some other board members. When we do something in this town, we have to look at not the cost of what it does, but the cost of maintenance as well.
Exactly.
And I'll give you an example, that skate park.
Yeah,
What's it called?
the skate park.
The skate park?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm a
We
little
don't have
old.
one anymore.
Well, we
I
had
know,
one, yeah.
okay.
Because
All right.
the maintenance wasn't
Wasn't
put
there.
into it.
Exactly,
And
and,
when we do that, now to bring that back, what's the cost to bring it back? Well, it's 10x,
yeah.
right? So when you look at this stuff, and I'm gonna go back to our budgeting and our line items and overspending and identifying, that is the fundamental thing that I've been trying to bring to this board, is that we need to understand exactly where every single penny is spent.
Exactly.
So that we understand, and we understand the maintenance to it and the future cost to it.
Exactly.
What Joe brings up, it's only $7,200, right? And I know I say $7,200, it's a cost to us, me. But we need to understand that, and we need to learn from some of these past
Right.
mistakes, so that when you come to us as a board, and any future board, I'm not gonna be here in 100 years from now, right? But
We
any future board,
we have a benchmark to go by.
that the benchmark has been set, that there's clarity and transparency to those that are actually writing the checks of taxes
Right.
every single year. So these are some of the things that we've been working on.
And-
That's a great example of
and-
making sure we understand our
Right.
true cost.
And just to add on to Mike's point, I know we're getting off the case, but we've hired a new facilities manager this year, and one of the things that he's undertaken by each building exactly what the maintenance is for all the different things we have. Believe it or not, we have a lot of things that require maintenance. We have furnaces, we have generators, we have water systems, and we're getting a handle on that. So that's another thing that you folks don't see, that we're doing behind the background to make sure that things run smoothly.
Thank you. Any other discussion on Article 10? Seeing there is none, Article 10 will be on the ballot as presented.
Motion to adjourn.
We're going to take a moment before we all head for home.
Excuse me, Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to rescind reconsideration on that article, please.
Well, yeah, we're not going to do that because we're going to be out of here in like 5 minutes. but
Okay.
That's fine. If we're not going to reconsider, is everybody in favor of seconded?
Hi, Dan.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're not going to reconsider the last article, right?
Nope.
In favor,
Good.
aye?
Thank you. Yep,
Opposed?
good.
The ayes carry it. All right, so.
Okay. There's been a few election law changes that you need to know about. Anybody that is going to vote by absentee ballot, there are forms, you always fill out a form, you submit the form, I give you a ballot. Your form must now be accompanied by a photo ID. If you're in my office, you can show it to me. If you're mailing it in, I need a copy. If you're emailing it in, you need to scan it and send it to me. If you do not send me an ID, you will not get a ballot. That's going to be out there, it is state law. Secondly, registering to vote. In the past, you need to prove identity, domicile, citizenship, Age. Okay. In the past, if you couldn't prove any or one or any of those, you could sign an affidavit stating that, yes, you are a citizen, yes, you do live where you live, yes, I am how old I am, and have it sworn in, then the Secretary of State looks into it later. You may no longer do that. When you come to register to vote, and you can tell anybody you know that's going to come register to vote, you must bring a birth certificate or a passport that states where you were born to prove your citizenship. There is no longer, excuse me, or your notarization papers if you are a naturalized citizen, and your naturalized papers. You must have those, or you may not register to vote. That is not a town law, that is a state law. So just tell your friends, if anybody's coming to register to vote, passport, birth certificate, and naturalization papers. Absentee ballots must be accompanied with a voter ID. Also, in the past, say Bill and his wife come to me, they want absentee ballots. Bill comes with 2 forms, one for him, one for his wife. I can now give Bill one. His wife's will be mailed. I am not allowed to hand anybody else's ballot to anybody else. In the past, I trusted you all. But the law doesn't, you know, they have now, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. So.
May I just interrupt? And it's not named the Landry Law, just.
No, just so you know, it is, he was the first person I looked at.
Just
So, so keep those things in mind, okay? Coming to me for a ballot? Yes, sir?
Can you clarify for me, because I think I misunderstood. When I come to vote,
Yes.
can I just show you my driver's license?
Yes.
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 Yes, this is registering to vote.
You're already registered.
This is registering. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Just clarify.
Yeah.
Because I heard birth certificates.
But let me just add one more thing to that, and it's important to understand the overall context. The legislature, many of whom I don't think have ever worked in a polling place, other than, you know, campaigning out front, changes the rules constantly.
Charlie left,
And clearly, there's good reasons for some of the changes. Other parts of the changes, you look at it and you're like, hello? I mean, why did they think of this? One of the other changes that has occurred is the number of circumstances and the simplicity in which an election official, like the town clerk, who knows everybody in town, or myself, who knows some people in town, can just say, yeah, I know that's Mr. Landry or whoever, because you forgot your wallet. Fine, don't worry about it, right? We can only do that now under some extremely narrow circumstances. And it's a tedious process. It's not like it's over in a minute. So it's probably, Mike, worth taking an extra 30 seconds when you're heading for the polling place to put your hand down and go, you know, if I got my wallet in my pocket, if I got my ID, and I think 99% of us, we just do. But, you know, I've had people that came in the polling place and their wallet's in the car, and we know them, and we don't say, yeah, you know, go back out to your car and get your wallet, because we're saving, you know, a couple minutes. But the way the law has changed, it'll be faster to go back to your car and get the wallet than to go through the procedure that the state has decreed we will now be following. So, with those in mind, Mary Jo, you have more election-related stuff.
One more.
Supervisor's checklist.
Yeah, your driver's license is not proof of domicile.
No, it is not.
Right.
So
Nope.
you have to have something
Nope.
else.
Because a lot of times your driver's license only has a P.O. box. Nobody lives in a P.O. box. And if you're registering to vote, you have to prove your domicile. And it's really simple. Bring in your automobile registration. That proves your domicile, because I'm not going to give you one if you don't live in town. Or a tax bill. Now, that doesn't prove your domicile either.
How about an electric bill?
A utility bill in your
Credit
name
card
with
bill.
the address, possibly? Okay. Utility bill, yeah, the address must be on it. Okay. But I do know for a fact that people do show up at my office, they have driven there, and they don't have a license. Stop leaving your house and driving without a license, because consider it, you are going to need your license for everything. Identification is going to be a huge part of the future if you're paying attention. So, yeah, bring your license to vote, bring a birth certificate, passport, naturalization to register to vote, and something to prove those things, that domicile is not your license. And also, a real ID does not necessarily prove your citizenship.
I'm going to add one final thing, and then I'm going to shut up because I think everybody wants to get out the door. If you have someone you know who is considering registering to vote first time, you know, a new voter, encourage them to come either to town hall or the supervisors or checklist meeting ahead of election day. Because that reduces the kind of stress of I gotta make it happen instantly. So if it's a new person, a young person you know, and it's their first time registering, just tell them to do it ahead of time. And we'll be still doing it on election day, but if they're missing a document or don't understand the process, it's way less stressful for them, particularly now after the election.
I just wanted to see if there could be cookies at the election this year. That's my favorite holiday.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
One thing, the school meeting Wednesday night, we just spent like almost 3 hours here talking over less than $6 million. The school budget is close to $40 million.
71%.
People need to show up. There was less than 20 people last year making the decisions for everybody. So, I mean, we got a pretty good crowd here. It'd be nice for those people to show up and just see where all our money is going. And I'm Larry Zurich from Marku Grove.
Thank you very much. And I totally agree with that. It's very important to participate, so it's Wednesday night, 7 p.m. at the high school, school district deliberative session. Any other matters?
Mr. Moderator, I would just like to thank everyone who put this together, because it's not an easy undertaking to put together. I'd like to thank our Board of Selectmen, especially Mr. Guide, who's directed us with during the budget process with our town administrator. Also like to recognize our administrative assistant, who she just keeps us all together and keeps us going, and the town clerk and the assistant town clerk, the road agent and his crew, the maintenance man.
And I'd like to thank all of you for coming, because it is you, the people who show up, that help make the decisions, that get the word out, the message to everybody else in town. And this is what I tell people. You can be online, you can be complaining and arguing and resentful and hateful, but if you don't show up to vote, my ears go deaf. People have died so that you can show up to have your voices heard. That is important. So thank you for coming today.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, you may.
Mr. Moderator, when is voting?
It is March 10th.
To recess.
Where?
It's actually a motion to recess, right? But it is at the safety complex. As usual, we're voting in the firehouse. And unlike some previous March days, it'll be a lovely day. We won't have a...
8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
We'll see you there. Okay, you got the motion, you got the second? Yep. Recess?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. We're out of here.
I didn't even know. Yeah, get up.